Yo, what is up, guys? DeepSea YGO here, hitting you with a random video. So I didn't think I was gonna talk about the ban list like at all. I typically don't really care about the ban list because I'm a one trigger. I run water and that's about it. And this is the first time it looks like water's being heavily considered and anticipated to be seen on the ban list in some capacity. So I just want to go over not so much ban list predictions, but more so potential targets for the water deck and how that might affect us, and if we should be worried or not about the water deck moving forward. I know a lot of people are new to the deck and coming into it, and worried about picking up this new combo deck that's about to get, potentially axed on the next ban list. Something I'd always look at when I think about water is I look at Infernobles, where Infernobles was a very similar deck to water. It was a really strong going first deck, could play through half boards going second. A skilled player could do really well with it. And they just, they axed a Soul Day. And that kind of killed the deck. And so I just want to go over my thoughts on some of the cards that people are talking about for our deck. So let's hit our first target. So first I just want to mention, if we are anticipating Dweller being on this ban list, then I think we should assume water will be getting hit in some fashion. So for the people that have been, playing water or interested in water before the new cards have come out, pre-Rage of the Abyss, like we were sitting there on the sidelines just waiting for new cards to come out. We all knew the hype of these cards. We all knew that when these cards came out, we were going to experience full power water. And this is full power water. Water, I think a lot of lack of representation for water is probably due to just understanding the combos and actually being comfortable enough with the deck to win or to do well in the tournament. I think when a solid player hops on the deck, we see the deck succeed in some amount of fashion. We did see Kamal and Chris, I believe that's his name, take two water decks to win the 3v3 YCS, which is a YCS. To me, it has less value than maybe a larger YCS like Anaheim or Orlando, but it is still YCS nonetheless. The deck did win with solid pilots behind it, so it's not too much of a shock. This is the strongest deck in the game going first. We all know that. And we know that water is incredibly broken. We have free access to Water Statue. We have hand ripping through Mulen Glacier and through Minstrel. And then we also have, we're one of the only decks in the game that have legitimate Omni negates right now. And we know Konami's trying to push that out. So I guess to start things off, if Dweller doesn't get banned, then I don't think water potentially needs to get touched. You could still touch it. I could see Konami still want to touch it, but honestly, if they left Dweller, I could see them leaving water alone, at least at this point, because they did just give us new support, and I don't think the deck has done well enough to really warrant any severe hits while Dweller's in the game, keeping our deck in check. Because I do think we lose a lot of games to the fact that our opponents made Dweller, and we didn't draw the out. So I think that's something important to consider as well. So then at that point, we have to kind of even ask ourselves as players, is it worth getting having the deck hit, but then also Dweller being banned? And personally, I do feel that's worth it. So I guess we can start with some we'll just go like card by card. So assuming Dweller doesn't get banned, how might some card changes affect our playstyle going forward? So we'll start with Mulen Glacier. Let's say they just ban Mulen Glacier. Absolutely irrelevant. I could care less if they ban Mulen. Yes, Mulen helps with the Fluoros, and so maybe then we need to go back to crossouts because we're not as strong into Fluoros. But overall, I think banning Mulen would have a pretty small impact on the water deck. Where the water deck's power really lies is, yes, in the engine cards themselves, but when we're looking at the cards that might actually get hit, we're mainly looking at cards like Minstrel, totally awesome, I guess Statue, Mulen, and yeah, I think that's really about it in terms of the non-engine cards that are like problem cards. Those are the four we're looking at. So if they just ban Mulen, we really don't care. Our deck still lives a double Omni negate, and our deck still has Minstrel. And I guess getting into that next, talking about Minstrel, now that would be a card I would actually be afraid to have banned. I don't think it's the kind of card that Konami would limit. It's not limitable. Because if you limit it, then nothing really ever changed. We're only playing one copy anyways, and yeah, you side more for going first, but it's really not needed. It's really just the one Minstrel. So they could ban Minstrel, and how would that affect us? If they ban Minstrel, then we lose our ability to snipe the Nibiru. Yeah, snipe hand traps, but it's really just for Nibiru. Sometimes Droll, but like it's not often that you're shotgunning the Minstrel, because you kind of want to pair it with an ammunition card like a Dragoons or Squad. And so most of the time you have to kind of like at least search once to get a solid ammunition card for the Minstrel. Yeah, if they do ban the Minstrel, we lose that. The hand knowledge is cool, but really, like, if I could just discard Minstrel and just say, all right, just take your nib out of the hand, I don't even need to see the rest of it, that'd be fine, you know? So losing the knowledge of Nibiru and being able to snipe it would affect us, as well as if you ban Minstrel, you for the most part also just kind of banned Water Statue, because Minstrel is our way to get to the Water Statue, at least consistently. There are other Deep Sea cards that like in the Deep Sea Diva like line that you could use to supplement the Minstrel being gone, but they're really not as effective. Sentry lets them banish the card from their hand, so they pick. So that seems kind of weird. That's never really assisting us. And then Artisan lets you look at the hand, but doesn't let you deal with it. So I don't think those cards are very valuable. I don't think those will help us enough. But yeah, so losing Minstrel would be a pretty big loss, but depending on how they hit other cards or don't hit other cards, losing Minstrel wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, wouldn't kill the deck. We would just have to focus a lot more on making that totally awesome play before really committing to a board, and that 5 summon negate would be a lot more important. Where right now, I don't really care about setting up a totally awesome on my 5th summon because we have Minstrel. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Minstrel. And then so moving on to totally awesome. And so then I guess a byproduct of Minstrel, I guess we'll talk about Statue real quick. I do not see them hitting Statue. They can, I mean, that'd be fine. It's like just as good or a little less good than having Mulen in our deck. At times it varies in the format, and there's pros and cons to playing Statue versus Mulen, playing both of them in combination of each other, but I don't think they would hit Statue. I don't think it's not as popular. It hasn't provided enough success to back its banning. They could, just because it's a floodgate, and that's totally fine. I mean, that's why we build our decks to be degenerate, so Konami can, you know, deal with them and hit the problem cards. But in the meantime, we're going to abuse them, and so Statue's a card we're able to abuse. So if they do just ban Mulen, for example, and we still have Minstrel and Statue, we still have that first turn degeneracy. It's a different path to get there, and definitely very viable. It's just Mulen does make our line into Flura a little bit easier, and that's kind of what ends up putting Mulen on top when comparing the two. But yeah, so then moving on to the other problem card, we do have Totally Awesome. Now this is kind of the elephant in the room, because Totally Awesome's banned in the OCG and it's banned in Master Duel, so it would only seem correct to see that Totally Awesome get banned in the TCG as well. Now, there is a world where they might actually only limit it, and in a world where they limit it, which I do think is a possibility, I don't think having only one Toad would be that much of a problem. In the world where we only have one Toad, we're probably still playing double Bahamut, and the reason for this would be is a lot of the times when you activate Bahamut, it's actually more of a bait, and you kind of expect it to get interrupted, and then you go into a second Bahamut later in the turn when you're securing your board, or when you're setting up your protection after breaking a board. That's when you're making your usually your only Totally Awesome, because the first one got negated. So you still probably want to play 2 Bahamuts, and then your second Bahamut target would probably just be Levy, where if we do get Totally Awesome to 1, then the Virtue Seam Trap probably comes back into the deck. And then I guess moving on, but overall, getting Toad to 1 would basically do absolutely nothing. If anything, it would just free up a slot in our extra deck, and we probably would never miss it, because there's already a list that have shown success at regional levels, playing 1 Bahamut, 1 Toad anyways. But then yeah, moving on to Totally Awesome getting banned. highly likely, honestly. I could see a world where Mulen and Totally Awesome get banned. Honestly, I don't think Minstrel's getting banned. We have a new Trickstar card coming out that lets us look at our opponent's hand and all their set cards. If you've looked at the new Canine cards coming out a few sets from now, one of their boss monsters also looks at the hand and snipes the card. It does the exact same effect as Minstrel. Very interesting. So, where people would say that Konami doesn't like cards that look at the opponent's hand, I would say that's true for generic cards, but I think in-engine hand sniping, it looks like Konami is pushing that, because we have Minstrel, we have the new Trickstar, we have the new Canine, and it's probably only going to continue. And I think it's part of power creep, and I think it's something that Konami is comfortable with. It's not like Minstrel is the most broken card in the world. Sometimes you look at your opponent's hand, they have nothing, and it also allows for players who are maybe less skilled to actually mess up. There's times where you might think to Minstrel, you might have a weak starter and you're afraid to commit to your play, and you'll choose a Minstrel first by discarding itself in one of your brick waters, not like an ammunition card, and then they'll have nothing, or they'll have too many hand traps, and then you really just gave your opponent 2 cards to do almost absolutely nothing. So I think Minstrel's a totally fine card to keep in the game. I think losing Totally Awesome and losing I think banning Totally Awesome and banning Mulen is honestly just fine. I think we can deal with it, and I think Minstrel is really the key card here. I think Minstrel is the card that matters. It's all about hitting the Nibiru. Minstrel does not care about how many summons you have. If anything, we hit the nib by our first summon. If normal summon Prince, you've already hit the nib. Assuming Prince goes through, obviously. But so looking at totally getting banned, what would that do to our deck? Well, it would make our going first weaker, sure, but I think at the same time, Konami, I do think, is wanting to walk away from the Omni Negates, and I think Totally Awesome probably is in line to fall into that ban category. And if not on this list, but Dweller gets banned, the next one for sure, because water is too strong. I mean, we all know this. This is full power water has done exactly what we thought it was going to do. It's been wrecking the fields. If they don't have Dweller, they just lose. If they don't have Shifter, they just lose. And we've already found ways to play through Droll. So I mean, water is a very powerful strategy, and if anything, I'm just really grateful that I got to top my first regional with the deck before it gets banned. So I just got to play with it. I just got to have some amount of success with full power water before it goes. And if anything, I'm ready for change. I'm ready. Like I said, I don't really care what happens to the ban list, whether X gets limited or a Malice card gets hit, bonfire to 1, whatever. I'm just ready for change. And because all I really care about is, the deck building process and the metagaming process and what that looks like going forward. So I think I'm open to whatever happens. But if the Totally Awesomes go, well, that just means that we have to change the way we try and build our end board. And so what this would look like is honestly something that we're already doing, which is the Lacia, Chening, Gaios, setting up multiple infantry pops, Sidra summons. All those interruptions are honestly enough. We do not need the Omni Negates. And we would probably still play Bahamut, because without Dweller, we're going to need a rank 4 to be Detachment Dragoons. And so Bahamut still stays at least as a 1-of, and that Bahamut could be used to summon the Levature Dragon, to then search Virtue Stream, which would add pretty sizable interruptions for us. And honestly, the Virtue Stream would pair pretty well with our new end boards, because then we can be pairing the trap with cards like Chening, rather than having to commit our Shrine Banish to the Chening. Because an issue I always had with Chening and Shrine being banished is that basically it forces you to commit all your interruptions at a single point, because typically you'll be going Shrine, discard Prince or Infantry to pop or summon Sidra to send, and if in that same line you're also using Chening's effect, because it's the only time you have to use it, well, then you basically just have one interruption rather than having multiple. Yes, Chening and Sidra and Infantry will all happen at the same time, and yes, it would equate to about 4 interruptions, but the fact that it's 4 interruptions at one single point, not so good. So it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. We'd have to You can't just omni negate the first thing you see anymore, which I think is fine. I don't think that's too much of a problem. I think the main loss from Totally Awesome would really just be in the fact that we no longer get the water add back. The water add back is what makes Totally Awesome really strong, and that would be a tough loss for sure. And then we would have to find ways to play around that, and find ways to see if we can to see if we can fix that and play around that and deck build around it. Or maybe it's not necessary. It all depends on the format. Because if we're assuming that the power level of our deck will be going down, we're also assuming that the power level of all other decks will be going down. So if Rizio is less consistent, they do not have Dweller, or if Malice is less consistent and they have less copies of Shifter, our deck will play a lot easier into all these strategies. And that's like kind of like the last point I want to get into here is I think blind second water, or water being built to go second, is actually really, really strong, and I think it might end up being the way we play water. Water reminds me a lot of Tempai, in terms of we force our opponent to make a half board with our hand traps, and then you can kind of bait out your opponent's interruptions through Sidras and Teuses, squad discards, Dragoon discards. You can kind of force out everything through Minstrel and Infantry. You're able to confirm what interruptions your opponent has, and then once you've kind of baited everything, if one of the last interactions is your Prince and that Prince resolves, well, then you're kind of just good from there. And Shrine kind of acts as that, like it acts like Tempai Kaiman, where the quick play spell that activates summons Tempai in the battle phase. We basically have Shrine and the DeepSea King, so it's like once we baited out all your cards, well, now we just go into the DeepSea King engine and we're able to finish you off from there. So I think, and not to mention that Sidra is an amazing card, and it basically takes us from having Sidra is basically a one card starter for our deck going second, and it's a really, really strong starter as well. So I think also being able to lean a little bit more into that and lean into the going second strategy, assuming there's no more Dweller in the game, because without Dweller, what are we really afraid of going second? Nothing would have changed if we got shifted, and then outside of the fact that that they'll have a chance to kill us before we have a chance to kill them. I'm not sure about the ban list in terms of the external cards of our deck. Now, where I would be concerned is if they chose to hit the engine itself, which I highly doubt that they're going to do that, but they could. And the only two routes that they could possibly want to take is, now technically there's a world where they could hit Teus, I guess, but I do not see that happening. That card does not have enough value in our deck. Where they would probably hit us is either at Prince or Dragoons. Now, if they hit Dragoons to 2, which is possible, that is a card I do consider to be a semi-limited viable card. If they do choose to hit Dragoons to 2, there would be that we would lose some power, we would lose some momentum when trying to break boards, and our deck would be a little less consistent going first, and that would hurt. Dragoons to 1, that would be a concern. That would be a pretty heavy concern. The external factors, our engine can basically build whatever we want. Like water can do whatever we want it to do. It's the engine cards that we're actually afraid of. So yeah, Dragoons to 1 or 2 would be troublesome, and then Prince as well. Prince to 2 would be fine, as in you'd have one Prince you can search for Poseidra, and then you have one Prince you can use for normal summon play, but you are losing a lot of gas, and you're losing a major amount of consistency, since our Prince is our only real one card starter. Even Diva to a degree is not really a one card starter, because it has to bridge itself into a Prince, which is typically very easily interrupted. So getting Prince to 2 or to 1 would be heavily impactful. Prince to 1, I don't want to say kill the deck, but Prince to 1 would be brutal, and we'd have to spend a lot of time figuring out how to come back from that. Our deck would be a lot more glass cannon, a little bit more like Old Water, where Old Water, you play on your first turn, and if you don't win, then you lose. Currently, Water has a little bit more gas. It can go like another turn, sometimes another 2 turns. But we would lose a lot of that gas in our deck, and having that second Prince available, allowing that even if your normal summon Prince gets removed by a detonator, you still have one you can send from deck or from hand off of Poseidra or a discard effect to get the revival effect of Prince. We'd be losing out on that as well. So yeah, those are like really my only thoughts about the ban list. I think I think for the most part, I expect Toad ban and maybe a Mulen ban. If those, I don't think they'll be touching our engine. Be kind of crazy with just giving us new support and the deck not doing that well to where it deserves to be murdered. You also look at like Infernobles. They hit the Isolde, you know. They hit the problem card. They did not hit the engine. They left the combo deck alone. So with those thoughts, I think totally awesome. Might get gutted to 1 or banned, as well as Mulen. I could see Mulen getting banned just because that kind of has that popularity sticker on it. You know, Mulen is very similar to cards like Shifter, where, you know, your player just like, it does not promote great game interaction for sure. And yeah, it definitely, it's not fair. Mulen is not a fair card, nor is Shifter. Both those cards should go. Shifter will probably stay. I would love to see that card semi-limited, limited, ban. Oh my gosh, that'd be insane, but unlikely. So yeah, those are my thoughts. A little bit of a ramble, a little all over the place. Tell me what you guys think. If you guys even like this stuff, I could do more discussion videos. I have more things to talk about. I have more thoughts I'd like to share, but I don't know. You guys let me know what you guys think about this. All right. Well, I'm done here. Thanks for tuning in. Check out the video and more content coming soon. I guess quick little update. There's a regional in Wisconsin coming up the beginning of April, like April 4th, April 6th, something like that. And I think I plan on attending that, and I plan to take a very different approach to the deck, hopefully, as long as it, like, you know, stays smooth, looks good. There's a few lists I'm very interested for water, mainly being a more, not so much control, but focusing more on the Ice Jade cards, or not so much Ice Jade cards, but more so on like Ice Jade Ran, and maybe revisiting like the Ice Barrier cards, and then as well as blind second or a going second type of variant. And then the other variant I was considering is mainly looking at a deck that focuses around DeepSea King and Statue once again, but taking it with a little bit different approach, cutting down some of the bricks to fit in other bricks. And yeah, so there's a couple lists I'm trying out right now, a couple lists I'm curious with, and yeah, so, you know, things are going good right now, and I'm excited to see what happens to the ban list. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm ready for any type of change, because currently the deck kind of feels solved. Solved is a weird word because it means that there's no more room for innovation. I don't know if that's true, but currently I think we are just seeing the full power extent of water, which we knew would just destroy everybody else, and it has. Water's been incredible, and I think, you know, it's due to have this deck touched. It is really, really broken. It's really strong. And, you know, but with Dweller gone, I think the deck will stay at a similar power level. And we'll just have to adapt and utilize the deck in maybe a different fashion. But yeah, that is it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.